Down the Biscayne. Yikes. 5 on the floor. Ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing. You can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars. Wearing rubber frauds. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing. Got it all banned. Y'all seen the block. Stop with one hand. And Pat, we trust.
You sound scared.
It's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat. Y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right. Welcome back to another live edition of 5 on the Floor. We come to you directly following the Miami Heat's loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 104-97 at the Kaseya Center. I am your host, Greg Sylvander. Tonight's floor plan with me, Digital Adel. We're going to dive into this matchup. It was a game where it felt like all three guys at the top of the Heat roster, whether it be Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, or Tyler Hero, had moments where they looked like they came up limping or other, and so they got beat up and they ultimately lost. We'll talk about that in a minute. Want to shout out Off the Floor to everybody on our live audience. Come check out Off the Floor. It's our Discord server, $2.99 a month. This is where you can talk the most heat anywhere. We have channels where you can chat about all kinds of other topics like hip hop, other sports, fantasy sports, but the Heat main thing chat is where it's usually going down. We talk Miami Heat basketball 24/7. Come to the most educated, informed fan base. The community is super tight. Skip all the social media BS. Come to Off the Floor, the most heat anywhere, $2.99 a month. Everyone wants to know one thing, Adele, and that is forget this game. What the heck's going on with Jimmy Butler? He left this game with what looked apparently like a leg or ankle injury at the time. I didn't know if he bumped knees or if then they showed the replay and then it confirmed it looked like an ankle that turned kind of forward, but it looked like an ankle sprain. We're going to get into that in a minute. Let's go to the X-ray, the play of the day, to kind of tee up this segment.
And now it's time for the X-Ray of the Play of the Day, brought to us by our friends over at Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services. Nelson and his team will bring the X-ray equipment and the staffing to you. If you work in a hospital or a medical office, get a consultation today at c-armandstaffing.com or give them a call at 561-891-9620. Their fleet of trucks at your service. Again, it's Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services, 561-891-9620. And now, the X-ray of the play of the day.
So this was unfortunate because Jimmy Butler, he wasn't particularly engaged. He only played 7 minutes, so this was kind of an early situation. He had 2 assists, but didn't really get engaged offensively, Adele. And then in kind of a loose ball kind of scenario, it looked like he got his feet wrapped up with Lou Dort, if I remember correctly.
It was Lou Dort.
And then it looked like he rolled his ankle, went into the locker room. I guess they said that he had approached the training staff previous to the ankle situation and maybe expressed that he wasn't feeling well or tried to get something that would help aid that. That was, I think, Tim Reynolds or Ira may have tweeted that. Please, whoever it was, I want to credit the right person. I think maybe it was Ira.
I think it was Ira. Yeah.
Okay, cool. It seemed weird because then he exited the game because he was ill. So it was like the ankle thing took a backseat to him being ill. Your thoughts on Jimmy Butler, what you saw from the injury, but also just the implications of the fact that a guy like Jimmy that they're really relying on in especially matchups like this where you're playing a 21-5 Oklahoma City team that is deep, talented, young, fast. Your thoughts on losing Jimmy, because I think that's where the fan base's mind went first when we recap this game. It's less to do about the X's and O's of what happened, and it's more about what the hell's going to happen with Jimmy moving forward.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, especially in the context of all the reports and rumors that keep swirling day after day after day. You have this break that's finally over because there was that elongated break where there was no basketball for the Miami Heat, and you come back, you can put a lot of that to bed by continuing to play well, and he turns his ankle. And what's really interesting about that is that he turned his ankle. They put a graphic up, they circled his ankle showing that he turned it, and then on that same graphic they put illness. So it was very confusing for the Heat fan, right? And so with all that being said, in a game like this, without somebody like Jimmy that can raise your natural ceiling, it just shows the defects in this build. And we talked about it all summer. We talked about it in the preseason, in the regular season. The lack of functional size is the issue. So the fact that, you don't have Jimmy, somebody that can raise your ceiling, you have Tyler and Bam trying to really carry the water for the whole team. It just became a difficult and impossible proposition. The score is closer than the game actually indicated that it was. It never felt like the Heat were threatening at any point. The Thunder felt like they were, in complete control and felt that way all night. And so the implications with Jimmy, how long is he going to be out? Is it really an illness? Is it an ankle? Are these rumors legit? It's just going to add on and pile and add fuel to that fire.
And Nick Johnson in the comments here on YouTube, shout out to him. He says, we had rest and they played yesterday and we still got beat. I think that's relevant to bring up. Like, this was a rested Miami Heat team. I recognize Jimmy Butler exited early. Bam was in and out as he got stitches. So this team kind of, they took their punches, as we'll say, throughout the game. But it was a scenario at home where you would wish that, to your point about Oklahoma City always looking like they were in control, you would have hoped Miami would have had moments where they pushed them just a little bit more. And tonight you just didn't see enough of that. Let's actually run to the next segment. We're going to do the player of the game and talk about a few different players here. The Insurance by Lynette, A Aggressive Player of the Night.
And now it's time for the A Aggressive Insurance Player of the Night, sponsored by our friend Lynette. You can find her at insurancebylynette.com. That's with 2 N's and 2 T's, insurancebylynette.com. If you need car insurance, renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance, or any other type of insurance, she's the person to go to. Based in Lauderhill, she services the entire Tri-County area here in South Florida, and she will make sure to get you the best deal. She'll probably talk to you about the Heat while you're at it. Reach out to her, insurancebylynette.com. And now, the player of the game.
So, from a Heat perspective, Tyler Hero had 28 on 11 of 24 shooting, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. So he had a good game. Bam had a double-double. But it's hard to ignore, and this dude is a baller. And that is Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's just take a moment. 12 of 25, 33 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Between him and SGA, that is a handful. Hartenstein had 18 rebounds. I guess basically I'm using this segment to go over all of the different stats of these players because we went out of order with just going directly to the X-ray of the play of the day. So let's get down to specifically how they handled Jalen Williams, Adele, but also Tyler Hero's performance.
Well, Jalen Williams is a great example of drafting somebody with high potential. He had a skill. He's a very, terrific shooter, long arms. Again, the word of the day, functional size. He has great functional size. He's able to guard multiple positions, but he really improved his handle the last 2 seasons. His ability to handle the basketball, get into the lane, it wasn't part of his game when he first came out. And he's just turned into a terrific player. But Tyler Hero, he's been phenomenal, man. He's an all-star. I'm going to keep saying it. He's playing at an all-star level, 28 points, 12 rebounds. But when Tyler Hero is your leading rebounder on your team, and outside of Bam, your next highest was Jaime Jaquez Jr. with 6, you're going to have problems against this deep, functional size galore OKC team. And they just built their team that way. The Miami Heat just don't have the size to really compete in that way. Hartenstein had 18 rebounds himself. Yeah. So outside of Tyler, if Bam was in and out, even one other thing too, Lou Dort also dinged up Tyler in this game too. Yeah. He got Jimmy, he got Tyler,
and Bam.
And then Jaime, a little heat on heat crime there. Jaime got Bam with the stitches.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dort was just, as usual, all over the place, really physical. But that's the story really of the game, is the fact that there really wasn't another player that was able to help Tyler lift the floor. Jaime at this point, Duncan was chirping at him at the end of the game for not moving the ball on a 4-on-3 fast break. There's a lot going on there with Jaime that we could explore at a later time, but Tyler needs some help.
Yeah, and Jaime's not giving it to him. Like, that's a struggle for him. It's getting more and more painful to watch. And you see he got 30 minutes tonight, so he and Drew Smith led the team off the bench in terms of minutes. Drew Smith is becoming, and he had a good game, 5 of 6, 13 points, 4 assists, 2 steals. So, I mean, Drew Smith did what you expected him to do. I think Rozier is still a mystery. 3 of 10 tonight. It's not any better there. This was a game, as you talk about functional size, the Heat just don't have the ability to size up against certain lineups. And then when teams go with like 5 players of 6'6", basically between 6'6" and 6'10", the Heat just, it's difficult for them to match up. And some players like SGA, maybe they're not that height, but they're so dynamic that it transcends height. So it's like, it's just a tough matchup situation that Miami is in, particularly with Jimmy down. Let's actually get to the next segment. We're going to go to the Defending the House by Real Estate Shop. I don't even know where we're going to go with this, so we'll find out on the other side of it. Let's do it.
And now it's time for our Defending the House segment, sponsored by our friends over at The Real Estate Shop. You can find them at realestateshopfl.com. That's with 2 P's and an E, realestateshopfl.com, or at the Fort Lauderdale Realtor on Instagram. This is Javier Iglesias and Amanda Martin. They help buyers and sellers in real estate. They're nimble and protective of their clients. They service the entire Tri-County area. That's Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties with a proven on-market strategy. The Real Estate Shop sellers earn the most money in the shortest time frame because Amanda and Javier have a deep understanding of the local market. So check them out. Again, it's at the Fort Lauderdale Realtor on Instagram, realestateshopfl.com, or give them a call at 954-268-9812. And now, who defended the house?
I'm sorry, Heat fans. I'm leaning into the Oklahoma City Thunder again because the Heat are a team that, for one thing, you talk about like what do the Heat do good this year? They've taken care of the basketball. They're third in the league in the least amount of turnovers, typically around 12 a game. And tonight, Oklahoma City forced them into 18 turnovers, Adel. So I think if we're going to look at defense at all, and we had talked a little bit about maybe some of the charges we saw taken throughout the game, but it wasn't enough ultimately. So I'm giving the nod to OKC. I know that we wish that we could just give all the praise to the Heat, but this was not a night that they came out victorious, and they definitely look like a team that is a couple levels from a talent perspective beneath an Oklahoma City Thunder team. Anything that jumped out at you on the defensive end that we should mention before we close?
Well, the guard, Terry Rozier, he dribbles a lot, gets into the lane a lot. I mean, he had a couple of nice finishes, which is rare for him, but just the decision-making overall and the lackadaisical passes we've had, that team is way too much arm length per person for you to play around with the basketball. You can't make those types of bad angled passes into the lane against people like Kason Wallace, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, Shea. They just have way too much length and athleticism for you to do that. And you have to take care of the basketball. Drew Smith is a nice player as well, as you see that comment coming in from YouTube. And he does take care of the ball, but he's not going to really create plays for you. Most of his assists are one read. And it's nice and it helps you. He's a solid player. But if he's your like second or third best ball handler, you have a problem on your team. And so Jaime's a big part of that right now. He's not really sure of himself. Jovic, he had a couple of nice things go on, but he also is not a primary ball handler. That's something that I really wanted to talk about because it's been brought up to me time and time again that Jovic should be running not really the point, but initiating offense in the half court. In the full court, yes. Half court, that's not his bag. He can't do it. You have Jovic trying to go at Jalen Williams one-on-one in the half court to create offense. Yeah, you're going to get 18 turnovers. If you get the guard trying to take people to the basket time and time again, you're going to get turnovers. Tyler's been terrific this season. And down the stretch of that game, there was a possession, gotta have it possession. Ball stayed on the opposite side of where Tyler was at the whole possession. Bam touched it. Duncan touched it. I think Jaime touched it. Tyler stood there on the wing out of the play, and it gotta have it possession. Can't have it. Just can't have it.
Yeah, there was a lot of disconnected, disjointed plays throughout this game, and you can't do that against teams that you're at a deficit from a talent perspective. Again, the Heat had a valiant effort at times. They kept the game close, so you felt like they could make a run, although it did start to get a little weird towards the end, where you had to really rely on them missing free throws and getting stops. But ultimately, 104-97 was the final score. I'm going to close with this. We're just going to end on a more philosophical tip. And it's something we may devote a whole episode to at some point. But Adel, you brought this up, and I think it's a good point. I think we should just talk a little bit about the difference in philosophy between the two teams that we watched play basketball tonight and the way that they team build. And the Heat are all about winning now and kind of sacrificing draft assets for win now talent. You kind of see where they are in this situation, and there's a number of factors that have gone into it, but they're kind of like, a middle of the pack type team. Oklahoma City took a more patient view of things. They stacked draft picks in a way that I don't think Miami will ever do. But there is just a really stark contrast in the way that they approach team building. And the question it begs the question of not that the Heat need to completely shift philosophies and change the way that they do things, because I think it's unrealistic to think that they're going to completely flip everything upside down, because what they've done has been successful, whether you like it or not you, Adele, but like whether anyone likes it or not. But I do think that the question can be asked, are we doing so well in the draft year over year that maybe we need to value picks and maybe do things to acquire just a few more picks so that we can hit on a few more players, supplement the guys we have, and just maybe treat the picks more sacredly than you have in the past. Adele, your thoughts on the difference in the way that they build, and do you think that there's credence to the idea of Miami maybe just borrowing bits and pieces of the philosophy that's happening in Oklahoma City, which is a completely different market, completely different situation in the way that they are not a destination. So there's lots of qualifiers and context that goes into this, but overall, your thoughts on the different ways that the two teams approach team building.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is no slight to the front office of the Miami Heat at all. It's just the rules have changed, the market has changed, and the way teams play basketball has changed. You used to be able to go and get 1 or 2 stars in free agency and have enough room to fill out your roster, even up to 3 stars. Now you can't do that. You can't just go in free agency and grab the latest superstar because the cap rules won't let you do it. I don't want to get into I'm not a capologist, first of all. Second of all, I don't want to get into like the second apron and all that, but just know teams aren't going to go into the second apron. So if you're up against the cap, you just cannot continue to go out in free agency and try to get the next greatest player to elevate your franchise. OKC has been building through the draft. For example, they have 5 picks in the 2025 draft, 25 first-round picks. Like, that's just an enormous amount of draft capital. They've developed their young talent from the draft, like Jalen Williams. They've gotten functional size all over the roster because of that. And they've been able to really make it work. And the next question is, are they going to be able to go and get somebody that can push them over the top to play with Shea as well? One other thing I wanted to talk about in regards to that, they don't have to completely shift philosophies. They don't have to try to be OKC. But you made a great comparison and say they need to value the picks a little bit more, make them a little more sacred instead of just jettisoning them off to bring in a Terry Rozier, for example. I think if they do that, because one other quick thing. I know I've gone a little long-winded here. If you go out and get one more player, does that one more player put you over the top to compete for a championship the way this roster is constructed? The answer is no.
Yeah.
So how are you going to get 3 or 4 functional size pieces? The only way to do that in today's NBA is through the draft. And I'll end it on that note.
Yeah. So the onus may be on the Heat to shift strategy a bit here. It also helps from a salary cap perspective, and we'll see how that goes. That's a pod for another day. Again, the Miami Heat lose. We appreciate all of our sponsors. Shout out to Adel. Shout out to everyone who joined us here in the chat. And we are going to close up shop. Have a great night, everyone.